Hey guys, my name is Cicabe and I hope you paid your taxes because spring is upon us. Don't be like Yoshi, be like Kirby. Also music, I guess.
I wake up in the morning, I got murder on my mind.
So far, I think the charts have been moving kinda slowly. We've been able to depend on some early heavy hitters of the year sticking around, some new songs that are here primarily on artist momentum, and some breakouts that have risen out of nowhere. And it's okay. Kinda. In 2018, there were weeks that had some record low scores from me, but we're not anywhere close to reaching those today. There's enough here to keep me interested, and there's not a whole lot that I morally object to or anything. Juice WRLD is nowhere to be seen, and none of the usual cast of scumbags is around either. And considering last year's track record, I think that's something to be excited about. Of course, we're not out of the woods yet when it comes to controversy, but we'll get to that. Spring Top 20 ranking. My bottom song has not changed from the winter. I guess I should count my blessings that nothing has come around that's worse than this. After all, how could you surpass such a low bar? The guilt-tripping, the piercing vocal production, the dreary synths. This should appeal to no one. Instead, it has comfortably been in the top 20 since December, and is currently a contender for the biggest song of the year. There is something horribly wrong. At this point, a lot of my peers have brought up the Juice WRLD remix of this song, and isn't that fitting? A whiny kid jumping on a soulless dirge of audio to complain about heartbreak that makes me actively root against both sides of the relationship. I know not to make predictions, but I pray there isn't a hit at the end of the year that I end up hating more than this. But you know what? This certainly comes close to that. This has already been thoroughly discussed by pretty much everyone on the internet. It's guilty of cultural appropriation, it's full of female empowerment, it, I don't know, resurrected both Hitler and Gandhi from the dead. Really, any discourse about Ariana Grande these days just makes me want to break my phone and laptop, so I'm not gonna get into any discussion over whether Ariana even has the right to make a song like this. I don't really care. Do whatever you want. Sample more Sound of Music, talk about more luxury porn, incorporate trap into your music in any way you can. You can do it if you want, but I don't have to like it. And as you can tell, I really don't like this. Is the Sound of Music sampling as bad as in Wind It Up? No, not really. Really, she has a reason for doing it that fits in with the lyrics, kinda. That being said, this is ridiculously tacky. Why are we trying to pervert a family-friendly movie to be about bitches and jewelry and hair extensions? Oh, right, because that's what the internet does. This tense beat and slow trap percussion will never be a good fit for Ariana, no matter how much she wants it to. It worked once on Sweetener with The Light Is Coming, and it's becoming increasingly apparent that was a fluke. And then she raps. I'll give her this. At least she's not using a phony accent like Iggy Azalea, but with a basic as hell flow and nothing to say except vapid nonsense, I feel embarrassed for her. And yes, I did listen to Thank You Next to the album. It didn't make this song any better.
Just a little 10-piece for it, just to blow it in the mall, doesn't mean that we involved.
This wasn't supposed to happen. I wanted to ignore this. I could accept during the week of the album bomb that this was going to get the most attention, not only because it contained Drake, but because it contained Drake and the guy Drake's been beefing with since 2015. I honestly would have preferred that they still hate each other to this day. In fact, I think it's entirely possible that they still do.
Bitch, I graduated, call me Big Fish.
Meek Mill gets just one verse compared to Drake getting a verse and the hook. This is what happened to Black Boy JB, and look how well that turned out for him. And I think Drake may have been trying to sabotage this song by making the hook a train wreck. The whole middle of it sounds like he's gasping for air with a choppy flow, and his entire cadence doesn't fit the 4-note melody performed on a piano that's been left to soak underwater. The only good thing I can say about this chorus is that it at least ends with some intensity.
Saw you last night, but did it all day.
The way the beat just explodes on the phrase broad day is an inspired decision, like the lights are going out in contrast. But a cool moment that makes up a total of 1 second of a 3-minute song isn't worth the tedium. I debated whether or not that was worth bumping it up a slot in the ranking, and after re-listening to it after months of ignoring it, nope.
Back home smoking legal.
Drake's verse is utterly disposable like it usually is, only standing out for his boast for breaking chart records set by the Beatles.
I got more slaps than the Beatles.
Good for you, but you can't deny that they had a much better track record than you in terms of quality. I mean, at least as a group. And Meek Mill's verse is only really notable because of the lines where he squashes his beef with Drake. I think. He sounds a little enthused by it, I guess, but I've heard the energy this guy can bring to a psalm. His hustle here is sloppy by comparison. It's not a terrible verse, in fact, I'd argue it's better than what Drake delivers, but I don't care about any of it. Meek Mill's career belongs to Drake at this point, whether they're enemies or collaborators. I'm not a huge fan of him by any means, but he deserves so much better.
Saw you last night, but did it broad day.
So far, things aren't looking so good, but hey, at least the bad tier only has one song in it. Too bad it's more discourse. I don't enjoy not enjoying Ariana Grande songs, believe me, but with a title like this, I don't think there was a chance of me liking it to begin with. I don't like songs where guys try to steal someone else's girlfriend almost on principle, and to hear Ariana dabble in it just hurts. Even people who like the album generally agree this was a bad look for her, especially as the album closer. But unlike Seven Rings, I think this has a pretty good beat. It's not amazing, but something about this eerie atmosphere and subtle rhythmic pattern really works for me. It's just a shame it's being used for a song called Break Up With Your Girlfriend, I'm Bored. That's like if Despacito's beat got used for I Don't Even Speak Spanish LOL by XXXTentacion. Plus, Ariana sounds like she's on autopilot, which I guess makes sense considering the title. But that kinda highlights how boredom is not a particularly interesting topic to write a song about. Sure, there's great songs about boredom out there like Longview by Grande, but when it's used as a framing device for why you're trying to get someone to cheat, I can't endorse that. It's icky and pointless, and again, really worries me for how Ariana's career will go in the future. How is it that I dread talking about the Met here more than I dread talking about Seven Rings? 2019 found a way, I guess.
I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride.
Maybe it has something to do with the cheap controversy surrounding this song? I think that's entirely possible. Old Town Road is gimmicky, and it isn't interesting outside that gimmick. It's a trap song with banjos and a southern drawl and cowboy lyrics in an attempt to cross over into country. And it's slapdash and pretty underweight, and I have no use for it. But I don't have a lot of anger for this song itself. I do have a lot of anger for why it got big, though. Initially, this got popular because of TikTok memes, because of course it did. I have a feeling that's something I'll have to accept more and more as the year goes on. But after it first debuted on the Hot 100, it then debuted on the Hot Country chart at number 19. The next week, it was removed, likely because it was deemed to not fit into country. And then the internet got mad. After the song got disqualified, people were quick to show their outrage, even accusing Billboard of racism because of the removal, despite the fact that Kane Brown is a pretty big artist who's had plenty of success in the country charts these past couple of years, not to mention Darius Rucker and Jimmy Allen each having hits that were allowed to stay in the past year. There is a debate to be had over whether Old Town Road is a country song or not, but to cite racism as the reason the song was removed from the country charts is a huge stretch. This isn't like H&M taking a picture of a black child wearing a questionable t-shirt for an advertisement. This is grasping at straws to defend the honor of a song that probably doesn't need defending to begin with. And the big winner from all this controversy is, of course, Lil Nas X. This kid has done a fantastic job of spinning this outcry into success, enough to get this song to number 1 much earlier than I expected, because the effects of that remix with Billy Ray Cyrus were more immediate than I thought. I'm not gonna act like it's an atrocity that this happened, but it still feels dirty. Old Town Road is not that lit.
Bust down, Thôtiana. Bust down, Thôtiana. I wanna see you bust down.
A couple years ago, I would have been outraged that a song like this got so popular. Now, I'm just kind of numb to it. In fact, I'm so numb to this that I just have nothing to say, and likely will never have anything to say aside from the name Thôtiana being pretty stupid. This guy's a living meme, and that's likely all I'll ever be able to see him as. Not that that's a bad thing, it's just that I have nothing insightful to even say about this meme, so I'm gonna move on. This is now the third consecutive top 20 video where I've had to mention this psalm, and it's getting kinda old. This has easily dwarfed Pompeii as Bastile's biggest hit at this point, and I'm not okay with that. And all the eggshells have been walked across. Alright, well, let's get to the stuff that only mildly frustrates me. Part of me feels everyone's being harsh on this song entirely because of Finesse's existence, and yeah, that's a much better song, but this is not Finesse 2. It doesn't even sound anything like Finesse, nor is it trying to be anything like it. And you know what? It could have been a lot worse. The singles these artists were promoting just prior to this were Money and Wake Up in the Sky, both pretty mediocre and forgettable. I will happily take both of them bringing their B game after those songs. And that may sound like I'm just settling at this point, but I can still admit it's not amazing. The production's cheap, and while both give good performances, Cardi and Bruno don't have as great of chemistry as they did on Finesse. But Bruno really delivers on his chorus and injects more and more passion as the song goes on, and Cardi's mostly likable. Although it's pretty jarring how she just randomly goes off on other girls at the end of her second verse. Yeah, that's a bit of an unexpected shift in perspective. I thought you were trying to make Bruno Mars horny, but despite those problems, this is fun. I enjoy having this as a hit. Now I just hope it doesn't shrink on me in record time. I just poured something in my cup. I've been wanting something. Between the album bombs and the platinum records J. Cole has accumulated in the past few years, it can be easy to forget that he hasn't had a year-end hit since Power Trip in 2013. Yes, he realized that the best way to get hits is to promote singles and not just albums. I'm relatively neutral when it comes to J. Cole. I've listened to both For Your Eyes Only and KOD, and each of them has their fair share of ups and downs. And Middle Child is better than the majority of KOD, but not all of it. Still, it leaves me a bit conflicted, mostly because it doesn't feel like a hit single, at least not right now. The beat's pretty unorthodox, especially with that prominent muted horn section. It is catchy, and I do like it, but I'm not sure I quite understand why people have been returning to this again and again. I could understand the initial rush since J. Cole tends to get a lot of early buzz on his projects. Now, it's just kind of crazy to me. I'd say it's possibly for the content, but it's not like this is the first time Cole has been critical of hip-hop culture, though it is the first time in a while that it hasn't sounded overly preachy, I guess. Similar to his spat with Lil Pump last year, it kinda seems like he wants to be some sort of guiding light, though, which might be overplaying his hand. Whenever I hear him mention Kodak Black in this song, I get kinda worried, but I guess he's talking more about how he wants Kodak to get help in changing who he is. Admirable intentions, but probably a lost cause at this point, I'm sorry to say. I don't know, the song overall doesn't impress me, but it's an enjoyable listen. Between this and his verse on A Lot, I'd say J. Cole is improving. At least a little. This song's success makes me happier than you could possibly imagine, but probably not for the reasons that you're expecting. I think I appreciate this song more than I actually like it. I'm sure by now you've all seen the comparisons to Down by Jay Sean, and yeah, I can't unhear that. Above all, to me that shows that pop radio and the streaming public are ready to embrace nostalgia for years as recent as 2009. Of course, I'm probably reaching. The internet's always been fascinated with the 90s after all, and only really started to embrace nostalgia for the early 2000s. But but I still think it's a plausible theory. Nothing like the phrase, "I started high school and my YouTube channel almost 10 years ago," to make me feel old. But the biggest reasons I'm excited for the song's success are because it's a pop song, and because its trek up the charts happened entirely naturally and not off of artist momentum. I've lived with the narrative that pop is a dying genre for the past few years now, though we've always had stuff that slips through the cracks. There is still merit to that narrative though, because the pop that gets popular in most cases feels like it needs to take cues from EDM or trap to get any attention. Sweet But Psycho isn't like that. It sounds like it could have come out in the early 2010s, but because it came out in 2018, it stands out a hell of a lot more. Now you may have noticed that I've said very little about the song itself, and that's mostly because the fact that it's popular is honestly more interesting than the song itself. Sweet But Psycho is clearly taking some thematic cues from early Lady Gaga, maybe a little bit of Disturbia by Ariana. The first time I heard the chorus, I thought it was supposed to be an interpolation of Poker Face. But despite being a narrative about a psychotic woman, it doesn't really go all the way to be warped and unsettling. It's your standard pop fare. Pretty synths, standard chord progression, catchy chorus, and a singer who's nondescript and is definitely gonna go down as a one-hit wonder. It meets my expectations for pop in 2019, but it doesn't really surpass them. And that's a shame. Because of that, if I remember this, it'll be more for standing out in the era of streaming rather than being a fantastic pop song. This song debuted in the top 20 back in the fall, and I'm only just getting to it now. I haven't seen A Star Is Born, so I couldn't tell you how effective this song is in the context of the movie, but as its own thing, I can get behind this. It's sweetly written, and Gaga gets to show off some impressive vocal chops, cracking and all. She has good chemistry with Bradley Cooper too, and it's just nice. However, I've always found those sha-la-la-la low parts to be a little silly. It's not really a deal breaker for me, it's just kinda weird considering this is otherwise a pretty serious song. And even that aside, there's not really a lot that keeps me wanting to come back. But considering Lady Gaga has been struggling to stay relevant since the Joanne era, it does make me happy that she finally scored another #1 hit. She deserves it. And though, if there's anything that proves that I'm just a teenage girl at heart, it's the songs in the good tier. I'm a sucker for you. Welcome to the age of 2000s nostalgia. 90s, you had your time, but we're ready to move on. Actually, truth be told, I was too old for the Jonas Brothers by the time they were the biggest thing on Disney. I didn't listen to them, I didn't watch Hannah Montana. I wasn't a Disney kid, I grew up on Nickelodeon. So my exposure to Jonas-related music came from Nick's solo stuff from the mid-10s and those songs from Joe Jonas's band that charted. So I had no expectations that the Jonas Brothers would be getting back together. After all, two of the members had already done more adult music. But the old fans of the Jonas Brothers are grown up now, so it does kind of make sense to cash in on that nostalgia. Yeah, it's a cynical way of looking at this, especially when I like the song a fair bit, but I'm calling it as I see it. Still, it's nice to see that Nick's solo work has translated relatively well back into pop rock. His falsetto is tight and he's very charismatic, Joe's pre-chorus is catchy, and the lyrics are decent. It's a hookup jam, so I'm not expecting anything complex. The instrumentation is clearly borrowing a lot from Blitz, though. And in that light, it's a little plastic and fuzzy, but it makes up for that in its energy and Nick's vocals. Still waiting for Kevin to reinvent himself as a rapper, though. What's taking him so long? Mama said, don't give up. It's a little... Say Amen deserved better. We can do anything if you put a mind to it. This song could still be in the top 20 by the time I do the summer ranking, and I probably wouldn't bat an eye. I can take listening to this over and over, especially when the alternative for more Benny Blanco is the trash he's made with Juice WRLD and Selena Gomez. Yeah, hopefully East Side wasn't a fluke, because right now, I'm getting worried. So you're a tough guy, like you're really rough guy, just can't get enough guy. Looks like I chose the right week to do this ranking. I'm not the first one to tell you this, Listen to When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? Billie Eilish's hype led to a record that was worth the wait and was almost everything I wanted it to be. Even You Should See Me in a Crown grew on me considerably in the month since I talked about it in the alternative ranking. And while Bad Guy isn't the best song on the album, it did feel like the right choice for a single to be released alongside the rest of the album with its own whacked out video that's easily her best to date. I so badly wanted this song to go to number 1, or at the very least, the top 5. Oh well, I guess I'll have to settle for this being a pretty big debut as opposed to a massive debut. This acts as the album's first full-length song after an intro track that's literally impossible to pronounce, and it comes in swinging. Infectious bass groove, catchy synth melodies, sinister finger snaps. This is aggressive and infectious, with more polish than her previous singles When the Party's Over and You Should See Me in a Crown. Because of that, it doesn't quite hit as hard as those singles, but it is attention-grabbing and makes Billie out to be absolutely evil. Speaking into a fan has never sounded so intimidating.
I'm the bad guy. Duh.
Now that's badass. However, this doesn't end too gracefully, as the last 40 seconds are muddy and ugly with swampy bass and an overabundance of trap skitters. I'm guessing this was used as a way to avert expectations, and I can see what she was going for. It's just not something I enjoy listening to all that much. Would have easily been a 5 out of 5 without it. Also, for the record, Bury a Friend would have topped this ranking if it was in the top 20 right now. Oh well. A quarter of the top 20 is stuff I could easily put on my best list. Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, Pastor Dawson Shelly sending texts, ain't sending kites. Yeah, he say keep that on lock.
If only Travis was able to perform this song live without sounding like he's out of breath.
Faith is here with all our ice on in the booth. At the gate outside, when they pull up, they get me loose.
That would be nice. Guys, I think I need help.
100 bands in my pocket, it's on me. 100 deep when I roll like the army.
Look, I'm not proud of it, but this just sucks me in every single time I hear it. The lyrics are weird as hell, but that groove and Post Malone's flow are on point, and I think I love this. I can't believe I said that about a Post Malone song. I have no shame in loving Sunflower because it's actually pleasant to listen to, but this is ugly and stupid and a retread of a song I had an allergic reaction to in 2017. And yet, it clicks with me. It may be a celebration that doubles as a snapback to the haters, but I don't really mind that this time. This slaps hard, but the music video Post recently released is terrible, which is why I'm still using that Christmas video. At this rate, I'm more disappointed by Post's music videos than I am by his music. Also, I hope I don't have to put this on my best list at the end of the year, because if I did that, I don't think I'd ever be able to live it down to myself.
Nothing feels better than this. Nothing feels better. Nothing feels better.
Now here's a slow burn of a song, both on the charts and in terms of my enjoyment, because it wouldn't be a Khalid hit unless it took 20 weeks to make any sort of impact on the Hot 100. It's weird that one of the biggest hitmakers in the world often takes forever to hit the top 20, but it's also kind of admirable. This plays amazingly as a driving song, especially at night. At least I imagine it does. There's something incredibly soothing about the booming bass, Khalid's smooth as usual vocals, and even those talkbox parts that take up the last third of the song. It's a chill as hell song, perfect for lyrics about a secret hookup. Oh, you know it. I haven't listened to Khalid's sophomore album yet, but I have heard the EP this is on, and the rest of the EP is a wonderful listen as well. It's been my go-to for my commutes to job interviews for a while now because, again, perfect for driving. And I'm sure the full album is good too, damn it. I'm still kinda in awe that this exists, considering how often both acts have made music I can't stand, and I'm even more in awe that it nearly topped 2 of my rankings in a row. But I can't deny that I love this a lot. It, along with Sweet But Psycho, give me promise that we might see a resurgence of actual pop on the charts in the near future. I didn't want to put this song at the top of yet another top 20 ranking, but thanks to another fantastic duet, I don't have to. You know what? I think I like Sam Smith now. Surprise, surprise, a song that's essentially a retread of one of my favorite songs of last year is at the top of my ranking for this week. Clearly I need to start standing Normani pretty soon. You swap out Khalid with Sam Smith, the guitar and trap beat for somber dance production, and hook up lyrics for post-breakup lyrics, and the magic's still there. Granted, it's much more smooth and soothing than Love Lies was, which in this case I'm actually thankful for. It fits Sam Smith a lot better than Love Lies' beat would've. Because between songs like Money on My Mind and Latch, rough, jumpy beats just don't work for him. Dancing with a Stranger, on the other hand, has a natural flow. It's calm and ebbing, with content that's appropriate for Smith's pained delivery. And opposite him, Normani's vocals are silky and warm, but just as tortured. Each of them can sell the grief of going from meaningful relationships to ones that feel hollow. They have great chemistry together, and the mood is ethereal and powerful. One of Sam Smith's best songs to date, and yet another example of just how unfair I was to Fifth Harmony, and even Sam Smith, I guess. I didn't see eye to eye with these guys before, but they're on a roll, and I can't ignore that. My final score for this week comes out to 60 points out of a possible 100. There's stuff here that makes me want to tear my hair out, but thankfully that's a minority in a group of quality tracks, or at least songs I enjoy hearing. I'm Cicabe OT1, rest in peace Nipsey Hussle, and take care.
Turn my headphone down a little bit. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Water.